going to show you guys how to make reusable face masks. These are obviously homemade, and these are ones that I'm making for friends and family and neighbors. These are not for medical use. I'm making these because it prevents the public from buying the N95 masks that the hospitals actually need. And they're pretty easy to make. If you have any kind of cotton fabric, preferably lightweight or thin, just laying around at home, you can cut up old t-shirts or really lightweight denim, or like my roommate gave me this cotton shirt dress that I'm going to cut up later today. And then these will be 3-ply masks, so they'll have a layer of cotton on each side and then a layer of fleece on the inside. The ones that I made earlier this week, I used flannel shirts that I cut up. These are really thin flannels. You don't want to use anything super thick since these are going to be 3 layers, because you want to be able to wear these for a long time and feel comfortable and not too hot and be able to breathe, obviously. Also, these need to be washed after each use. So you can wash them with cold water and then air dry, and they take about 30 minutes to just air dry. When you're handling the mask, use your gloves and then put back into a clean, safe container, like a Ziploc bag. But yeah, these will pick up lots of little particles throughout each use on your outside. So although these are reversible, you don't want to reverse the mask while you're using it. You can reverse it after it's been washed. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make one from scrap material. Since I had a lot of stuff left over from old projects laying around in my studio, I was lucky enough to have things to make this easier, but I'll show you how to make one from anything. What you're gonna need is cotton fabric, enough for 2 6x9 pieces. And then you're gonna need a layer of fleece, like this. But for this tutorial, I'm gonna use this stuff called FUSIBLE fleece. It looks like this, and it's just a cotton fleece that is not woven, and it's for quilting, but you can use an iron to fuse it to your fabric. So this one's already fused. All right. This one also, I don't know if I said this, but has elastic, and the ones I'm going to show you how to make are with ties. This is what I made earlier. These are 20 inches long, the ties, and when you make your first cut, they are 2 inches, so 2 by 20, 4 pieces. For this one, I just use this cotton fabric from a curtain I made a long time ago I'm not using. This is what it looks like when you first cut the strip. 2 inches. And then this is what it looks like when it's finished. So I'm going to show you how to do that with this red fabric here. Okay, so I have like just this scrap of red from another project. And I just marked off, I don't know if you can see, 2 inches using my ruler, just 2-inch strips. And I'm going to use all of that. So now we have a bunch of little pieces here, and you're just going to want to sort of line them up to figure out how many you can make 3-inch strips out of. And I'm laying, I'm going to use like a really small seam allowance to connect these together. So I'm just laying them on top of each other. 3 little strips here we're going to connect. We're just going to line up the edges and then sew them together with the 1/4-inch seam allowance. Okay, so we have our strip here, 2-inch strip. We're gonna iron the seams open. So the next step is you're gonna fold the whole strip in half. And you're gonna fold each side of the strip towards the center. So 1/2 inch on each side. Here, okay, so here we have the sides folded in. And then we're gonna fold it in one more time, and then we're gonna sew this whole thing closed. So we have this whole thing folded now, and we're gonna close it up. You wanna start by folding this top edge down about, 3/8 of an inch or so. And then, because we're gonna close the raw edge off on the very end. Okay, and then we're gonna hold it. I don't know if you can see, so it's completely closed. Now we have our 1/2 inch tie, and you want to make 4 of these. This is the closed off end. Not perfect, but it works. This is the raw end. We have 4 pieces, all sewn. We have our 4 ties. These are all 1/2 inch now, sewn closed by 20 inches long. We are gonna take first our flannel piece. Mine is fused, so it's already connected. But if you have a loose piece that's not fused, that's the first piece that's gonna go down flat. Then we'll take one of the outside pieces, lay that on top. This mask is reversible, like I said earlier, so it doesn't really matter which outside piece you put on first. Then we're gonna lay our strips flush against the raw edge. We're gonna take flush against the edge of one of the short sides, 1/2 inch in. So you can see we have all the strips facing inward, but each raw edge is flush against, of the ties, is flush against the short sides and pinned 1/2 inch away from the top and the bottom. Okay. Then we're gonna take our other outside piece, and And we're gonna lay that on top. We can tuck the ends in here. While holding the tie in place with your fingers, so this is the sandwich here. So it's flannel, outside piece, tie, other outside piece. I have the pin in right now because I wanted to show you where the ties are placed, but I'm going to take the pin out while I'm holding it with my fingers and then repin it again from this last outside piece. We have everything pinned in place, sandwiched together, and we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew the edges. So we have our little sandwich here. We're going to start from the short edge. We're going to start sewing a 1/4 inch all the way around and leaving 2 to 3 inches open here, so we can flip it inside out, or right side out. So now we have this whole thing closed up, except for this little opening here. I'm gonna grab my scissors and we're gonna just trim the corners so that we have sharp corners once we turn it right side out. This one I'm not going to trim because it's already pretty close. The stitch line's already pretty close to the edge. But so we're going to just trim it the corner like that. So we're about an 1/8 inch away from the stitch line. Then we are going to turn the whole thing right side out. So then take something like the blunt or the end of your scissors when it's closed, or a pencil or a pen or something somewhat sharp but not sharp enough to poke through the fabric inside, and just kind of wiggle it around the corner to make a sharp corner. We have our ties sandwiched in between all the layers on each side. Then we're going to go press the whole thing. All right, we got our mask. We want to press it really flat. And we're going to press that opening so that it's closed. Here's the opening. We're just going to fold that 1/4 inch seam allowance inwards with our fingers and then press it closed. And then you're just going to stitch an 1/8 inch and edge stitch right over that. We have our mask. Now that all that's left is the pleats and the wire on the nose bridge. I have been using pre-made bias tape, which I have just some satin bias tape, which you can buy for pretty cheap. I'll try to find a link of something that you can purchase now and get shipped quickly. But you can also just make it yourself, just like this strip. So the strips that I've been using are 5 inches by 3/8 of an inch. And you can make them longer if you want. It's for the top edge of the mask. You can use paper clips. You can unfold them. I don't know how you see this, but you can unfold them and then just bend in the edges. You can use galvanized wire if you have any. I have some, but it's too thick. This is 18 millimeter. I used some earlier that was slightly thinner. You just want it to be bendable enough on your nose. All right, I'm taking my strip here. And I'm measuring it against the wire. So I have this little strip. I'm just gonna press this in half. The strip after it's been pressed in half. Fold in half to find the center. Put a little pin. We're going to do the same thing with our mask. On either of the long edges, we'll fold it in half to find the center. Put a pin. And then we're going to line up the pins so that we find the center of both. So we're going to take this to the sewing machine and sew it down to make a little casing for our wire. Okay, we have our strip that we're going to sew down before putting the wire in. We're making our casing. What we're going to do first is fold one edge over to close it, and we're going to sew that closed first. We're going to start on the short edge. This is what your casing will look like. You leave 1 inch open here, and then we have just this all sewn on the edge here. We can now take our wire and put it inside. Okay, our wire is inside now. And what we're going to do is take this open end, fold it under, and stitch that down. Everything's closed in now. We're going to go press the pleats as a last step. want to start making your pleats now. So we're doing 3 pleats. We're going to take the top about 1 inch and fold about 1/4 inch under it. We're doing accordion pleats here. I will show you after I press. So we've got 1 inch, and then you're gonna fold it about 1/4 inch in the back. Same thing for the second one. We'll take about 1 inch and then fold it under about 1/4 inch. The pleats don't need to be perfect. These ones definitely aren't. As long as you have pleats in, but they should be, you know, close to even. Okay. So I've pinned it in place. So we have the little pleats in the back and the bigger pleats in the front. Now we're going to sew over the pleats. Start below the first tie, or the top, I mean. And just edge stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Then we do the same thing on the other side. We have our finished mask now. You can open up the pleats. I'm wearing a lot of hair clips today. Bend the nose down. We're good. If you want to close this up more, you can, but I think the most important part is to have the wire at the top. And you can do it all along the edge here, like I said earlier. And actually the very, very last step, so you can see I bent the wire here for my nose. The very, very last step is washing this before actually going outside, because this will have definitely picked up lots of things around your workspace. So make sure to wash this with cold water, detergent. You can use Dr. Bronner's or whatever laundry detergent you have. You can put it in the regular wash with cold water, or you can hand wash it and then line dry it. So again, 30 minutes about to air dry. Put it in a Ziploc bag with gloves. And share with your friends, share with your family, your loved ones, neighbors, and let me know if you have questions. Okay, bye.